Hi, everybody. So, I wanted to go back to a topic that I started a couple days ago about work-life balance. And uh, in the last video that I did talking about it, I think I talked for like 7 minutes. Uh, but I, sort of drew out the conclusion in a long kind of way that if you love what you're doing, then working is balance. And there's nothing wrong with that. Um, but I did say, setting boundaries is important and knowing your limits is important. And I wanted to get into that a little bit and talk about kind of my day, um, a typical day, because I still work sometimes 14, 16 hours a day at the theater. Typically during tech, those of you who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. Um, but that has changed over the years, and how much time I spend getting what I do done has definitely changed. Um, when my kids were little, and I dropped them off at school in the morning, or my husband dropped them off at school in the morning when they were in a different district than I teach in, going in at 7 o'clock in the morning and working the first 3 hours. I'm on a flex teaching schedule, so my teaching day starts at 9 o'clock and ends at five. Well, technically, it's supposed to end at 5 ish, um, because that is when my class is actually scheduled from 3:30 to 5. But that's not what actually happens. Um, and I'll explain that in a minute. But I would go in and I would spend, and the 9 o'clock is actually that this is the first year that I've had a class that early in a really long time. Because usually I have a prep period, and usually my prep period is the first part of my morning. And that is specifically so that I could come in the morning, get work done, go to the hardware store, go to the lumber yard, pick things up so that we would have them. Um, but that changed with COVID, and the schedule changed for our school, so things are still a little wonky that way. Um, but I would come in and spend 3 to 4 hours myself building in the shop when there weren't students around. And I got a tremendous amount done. And then the students would come in and I'd say, okay, here's the example of what we are building, and now you guys are going to build the next sections. And it worked very well. But that meant that I was at school, you know, 3 or 4 hours a day longer than I was scheduled to be. Um, when my children got into high school, middle school, and then they had more activities, and they went to the school where I teach. So then I was there 3 or 4 hours after school because they had stuff going on. So I would, and we lived 45 minutes away, so there wasn't any point in me going home. So I would stay an additional 3 hours in the evenings and I would just keep working because I enjoyed it. Um, so a lot of our large builds happened on my time. They're no longer children. Um, they are young adults with lives of their own and vehicles. So that is no longer I'm no longer mom taxi. So that has definitely changed how I view my workday. I still go in early, mostly to get my classroom paperwork done, grading and emails, and the stuff that we all hate. Let's be honest. Um, so all of that minutia gets done in the morning, so I don't have to think about it the rest of the day. And then I will start building, usually again in the morning when I'm by myself, so that I can say, okay, here's the next step uh, with my classes, and then because we have now live 5 minutes away as opposed to 45 minutes away, at the end of the day, unless we have a rehearsal or something going on, I go home, which has changed what the department can do. So my personal schedule has directly affected our department and what gets done on stage. I don't think that's fair to the department, really, because that means that what we accomplish is dependent on my schedule. It's not fair to the department, and it's not fair that that should be put on one person's plate. Um, what that means is better planning so that those things can happen in class. And if we are not going to uh, essentially pay an outside company or an outside carpenter to come in and build, which we have in the past done quite a lot, if we're not going to do that, then we have to plan for what the students can build. And the challenge there is you never know what you're going to get with a batch of kids. If you hire 4 carpenters for a shop, you're looking at their resumes and you know exactly what they can do. If you are teaching students to do that, it is uh, it is a lovely crapshoot. Um, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, you never really know what the kids are bringing to the table. And it's exciting to teach them. It's exciting to watch those moments. And when they realize, oh my gosh, they can do it. We put up a wall yesterday, uh, the archway for I Ain't Misbehaving that we've been working on, and I'll take a video of that and post that later. Um, but watching them put that up, and it's a very simple piece. Took us 3 days to build it. Um, it's a very simple piece, but watching their excitement when they stood it up and looked at it and realized, oh, now I understand, was a really fun moment. Um, but you don't know what they're going to be capable of. And this year, uh, with them coming back into school and not really having been virtual for so much of the past 18 months, 2 years, um, their ability to work together is strained. So what they know and what they're capable of off the bat, it's taken us from September to February where I can walk away from them and know that they're going to at least give their best effort to the project. They're not just going to sit down and stop. And that's been really, it's taken 6 months to build those relationships with those kids so that I can do that and feel comfortable. Or I can, hand them a wrench and give them the keys to the booth and say, okay, you're going to bring up channels 1 and 20. You guys are going to go up to the catwalk. You're going to focus on the extreme stage left and stage right because we need a full spread for the symphony that's coming in today. And I was able, and then I'm going to go to the studio and check on the guys working in the studio. And I come back and they have accomplished that. That has taken 6 months. Um, and that's fine. That's the job. But that means a tremendous amount of upfront planning so that I have my balance at the end of the day and I can feel okay about walking out the door and not feel like, well, man, if I'm leaving, we've got 2 more flats to build and I've got all of the DMX to run for the studio and we're going to have to move all of the seating and I can't do that by myself. So I'm going to have to, I don't like feeling like that at the end of the day. So we have to plan better at the front end for success on the back end. And that's the story of any production is the more planning that you can do on the forward end and the earlier you can start with that planning on the forward end, um, the more successful your students are going to be, the more successful you're going to be, the better mood everybody's going to be in because you don't get down to that last minute frazzle, which we are all very familiar with. Um, and and the product that you look at, because the process went better, the product is going to feel more gratifying, even if it's simpler, even if it is not, you know, a full, you didn't build a 2-story house and put it on stage, although, you could, if you plan appropriately. So work-life balance isn't always about the number of hours that you're putting in. It's about the quality of the hours that you're getting, and are you prepared for that instead of just being in there for 14 hours. So that is my 2 cents and 9 minutes for the day. Uh, thank you for listening. Please feel free to leave a message or get in touch. Subscribe, like the page, join us on Facebook. Be a part of the conversation. We're all out there trying to make this happen for our students and our schools and our small theaters, and we should be there for each other. So I will talk to you next time.